Hi friends, good evening. Welcome you all to our special spoken English class. Questions are very important in our conversation. So today we are going to learn how to frame questions. So to help us, our English instructor and teacher, Mr. Shibin Thomas sir from Kerala is available to us. So without delay, let us welcome our teacher and listen carefully this session without leaving in the middle. I request you stay until the end of the program. Then you will get maximum benefit. So those who stay until the last will give you bonus information. So I request everyone stick to the end. So let's invite our teacher, Mr. Shibin Thomas from Kerala. Brother, we welcome you.
Hi everyone, welcome back to BSNK English class 6. And today we are going to learn how to frame questions. As you know, questions are the important part of communication. There are three types of questions. Questions with question words, yes or no questions, and tag questions. You know, question is an important part of communication. Without question, communication is incomplete. So we need questions at times to get information, to get more knowledge, to communicate well. For all these things, we need questions. And in order to speak correct English, we need to know how to form questions correctly. There are three types of questions. The first one is questions with question words. You are familiar with the question words. You can see some examples for question words like what, who, whose, which, where, when, why, how, and question words go on like that. How many, how much, how long, like that. There are many question words. So most of the question words you see here are beginning with W or WH, like all the first 7 question words. Now let's see some examples for the questions with question words. First, what is this? So all these questions are familiar, but we have to learn the basic rules how to frame questions after seeing these simple examples. The first one is, what is this? Then, who is the officer? An example for a question with the question word who. Then, whose pen is this? Next, which is the way? Next, where are the papers? Next, when is the meeting? Then, why is he late? Then, how are you? See, all these questions have a particular pattern. That is, these questions begin with question word. So that is one of the important things that we have to remember. That is, questions must begin with question word. If the question has a question word in it, it must begin with question word. So these are the questions we can see with question words. Let's begin with question words. What, who, whose, which, where, when, why, and how. And when we analyze the question pattern, we can understand that these are written in this pattern. The first part of this question, these questions are question words, then verb, then subject. There is an exception to that, that is the third question, whose pen is that, is this? except that all the questions are begun with question word. Then second step is verb, and third step is subject. What is this? What is the question word? Is the verb. This is the subject. Who is the officer? Who is the question word? Is the verb, and then the officer is the subject. The third one is exceptional. That's the question word is whose, when is the subject, and is the verb, and this is the dummy subject there. Then which is the way, which is the question word, is the verb, the way is the subject. Like that, we can see the common pattern of all these questions with question words. The first type of questions is question word, verb, subject. But if there is auxiliary verb, the question pattern changes. For all these questions, you can see there is only one verb each in all the questions. But if there is an auxiliary verb, the question pattern changes. Let us see examples with the same question words. How to write. What are they doing? What is the question word? Are is auxiliary verb. They subject. Doing is the main verb. Next, who is coming? Who is the question word? Is auxiliary verb. Coming is main verb. So in these two examples, you can see there are two verbs each in each questions. The first one is auxiliary verb. Second is main verb. How to write a sentence with auxiliary verb and main verb when we write questions? Its pattern is, so as you can see two more examples here. Where is she writing? Then when did they come? In all these four examples, you can see it's begun with question word. Second step is auxiliary verb. Third, subject. And at last, the main verb. So the pattern of writing questions in this way is question word, auxiliary verb, subject, main verb. See the third and fourth examples. Where is she writing and when did they come? Where is the question word? Is auxiliary verb. She is a subject. Writing is the main verb. When did they come? When, question word. Did, auxiliary verb. They, subject. Come, main verb. You know, if there are two verbs, one of these verbs will be auxiliary verb, the other one will be main verb. So when there are two verbs, I mean auxiliary verb and main verb, this is how to write question. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, main verb. So we cannot change this pattern. So we cannot ask a question like where she is writing. That is not a question. If we say where she is writing, that's not a question. The proper question is where is she writing? That order must not be changed. Then the first example, what are they doing? What they are doing is not a question. What are they doing is the right question. Then who is coming? We may not have any confusion with that because there is no extra word that's coming in between the auxiliary verb and main verb. Then the last example, when did they come? Did is auxiliary verb, come is a main verb. Remember, if there is auxiliary verb and main verb, the subject should be inserted between the auxiliary verb and main verb. For example, when did they come? They is a subject. You know, the first word is question word, second auxiliary verb, last word is main verb. In between auxiliary verb and main verb, we insert the subject. That is the word they. They is a subject there in the last sentence. When did they come? Yes. In order to write questions properly, we must have an idea about splitting verbs. That is, the word do is formed with two words. That's do and do. So if we split the word do, we get two words, do and do. This is what you have to learn if you don't know. The next word is does. Does means does plus do. So the word does, if we split the word does into two parts, we get two words, that is does and do. Next, third word, did. If we split the word did into two parts, we get did and do. See, the second words in all these combinations, which word do you see here? Do, the same word. Okay. In the same pattern, how is do plus how. Has is does plus how. Had is did plus how. Once again, let's see these words. Do. Do and does are the words used in simple present tense. Do. Okay. Do means do plus do. Easy to remember. Do is do and do. Does is does and do. Easy to remember. Does is does and do. Did is did and do. So the same word. Okay. The first two words are present and did is past. Again, how. How means do and how. Has, just like the letter you see F, does. Has, S stands for does. Has means does plus how. Had is did plus how. This basic understanding is required to split the verbs in order to write questions and to form negative sentences. So unless we have this idea, we cannot form questions. So try to learn. If you don't know this pattern, try to learn it. Just understanding it will help you to form questions easily. Okay, if it's not clear, we'll do some examples and let us make it clear. Next, in the same pattern, look at the word do, does, did. In the same pattern, let's split the verb know. Know is do plus know. Knows is does plus know. Knew is did plus know. It has nothing to do with the three forms of verb. You know, we are not telling anything about the three forms of verb. The first two words are first form. The last word is second form. We don't write the third form here. It has nothing to do with the three forms of verbs. Okay, then know, do, and know. Knows, remember the letter S stands for does. Does and know. Knew, second form, that is did and know. Okay, yes. Now let's try to do some questions. Let's see how to ask a question. He writes answer well. He writes answer well. There's no need to teach you about the parts of the sentence that there is a subject, verb, then object, and there's an adverb also at the last part, you know. And to ask a question, we know we can ask questions from this sentence like, why does he write answer? Okay. Does, you know, how do we get does and write? The word writes means does plus write. Okay. The word writes means does plus write. So that is written there. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, main verb, then the word written there, that is verb or object. Okay, sorry, the subject, the object there, answer. Answer is the object in the sentence. So the pattern is question word, auxiliary verb, subject, main verb, object, and then at last the word well, that's adverb. Then next question, what does he write? We can form a question with the question word what. What does he write? See how we got that question word does and write, we got it because when we split the verb writes, we get does and write. In between, we just bring the subject, that's he. Okay, so the subject is brought in between the auxiliary verb and main verb. Then last question is, how does he write answer? We get the answer, he writes answer well. So the question is, how does he write answer? Question word is how, auxiliary verb is does, subject is he, then write is the main verb, and at last answer. Okay, yes. So it gets changed when we change the subject, sorry, the tense. Writes, see what is the difference between the first sentence and the second sentence. In the first sentence, we see the word writes, whereas in the second sentence, we see the word wrote. Yes, the word wrote. Writes becomes wrote. Writes is in simple present tense, wrote is in simple past tense. See, let's see how it gets changed. And when we write questions, we can see, why did he write answer? Why? Did write. What is the difference between this question, the first question in the first column, and the first question in the second part? Does write becomes did write. The reason is the sentence here is wrote. Wrote means did write. Okay, in such a way, we need to learn how to split verbs. Wrote is a second form of the word write. Second form means did plus the first form. Did plus write is wrote. So that's how we got the question, why did he write? Answer. Next is, what did he write? Again, we see the words did write. What did he write? So the question is, what was the content he wrote, or what did he write? Then last question is, how did he write? Answer. How did he write? Answer. So you know the meaning of all these question words: why, what, how, when, where, how many, how much, or which, when. For all such question words are clear to you. Now we are learning how to form questions properly. Yes, when we wrote this answer, we have to think about the questions as well. Why did he write? Answer. What did he write? How did he write? Answer. Next, he is writing answer well. For forming question with this answer, it's quite easy for us because there is no need to split verb. There is auxiliary verb. See the difference between the second and the last sentence. There is no auxiliary verb in the second sentence. It's just he wrote answer well. But in the last sentence, there is an auxiliary verb. That is. The main verb is writing. If there is an auxiliary verb, we don't have to look for the new word. Everything is there. We just need to arrange the words properly. That is why the question word is there in the sentence. Is. Subject is there, he. Writing, that's there in the question already in the answer. Then the word answer. Why is he writing? Answer. We don't have to split verb because there is auxiliary verb. So remember, if there is auxiliary verb in the sentence, we don't have to split the verb. That's not the case of the first and the second sentence. In the first and second sentences, we saw there is no auxiliary verb. There's only one verb, that's main verb, writes and wrote. But the last sentence gives us two verbs, that is is and writing. So one of these is auxiliary verb, that is is, and the second verb is writing, that is main verb. Okay. Yes, we need practice. So practice only will help us to make it clear. Questions. Who are they? Then, where were you? Then, what do you think? See, the first two questions, there is only one verb each, that's main verb. But the third question has two verbs. They are do and think. Do is auxiliary verb, think is main verb. What do you think? Then, when will she leave? Will is used in future tense, and this question is about her action in the future tense. That is, when will she leave? Will is auxiliary verb, leave is main verb. Then, how was the program? There is only one verb, that is main verb. That word is was. Then, which are the wrong ideas? Just like the previous question, there's only one verb, that's main verb. Which are the wrong ideas? Why are you laughing? You can see that there are two verbs. Are is auxiliary verb, laughing is main verb. Now you may have a confusion that in the previous question, are was main verb. But in the present question, are is auxiliary verb. You know, if there is only one verb, that will be main verb. If there are two verbs like this, are laughing, are will be auxiliary verb and laughing will be main verb. Then, last question. Whose house is this? This is an exceptional question. Its pattern also is different. There you see whose is the question word and house is the subject, is the verb. Okay, yes. So the pattern of this, the questions with whose is different from all the patterns we have seen. The first type of question we have seen, if there is only one verb, we can form the questions with question word, verb, and subject. For example, the first one, who is the question word, are is the verb, they is the subject. But look at the question, second last question, why are you laughing? Why is the question word, are is auxiliary verb, you is subject, laughing is main verb. Unlike the first question, the second last question has two verbs, auxiliary verb and main verb. If the question has auxiliary verb and main verb, we have to bring the subject in between the auxiliary verb and the main verb. See the example, why are you laughing? You is brought in between the auxiliary verb and main verb. Okay, are is the auxiliary verb, laughing is the main verb. Next, second type of question is yes or no question. As the name denotes, the answer to this question will be either yes or no. And all yes or no questions begin with auxiliary verb. That is a clue. All yes or no questions begin with auxiliary verb. And the answer to this question will be yes or no. So this is very simple. Let's see. First of all, you have to remember all the auxiliary verbs. There are 4 types of auxiliary verbs. Basically 2 types. The first 3 categories, be, have, and do, are known as primary auxiliaries. And the last one, modals, that is known as modal auxiliaries. The primary auxiliaries are the forms of be, the forms of have, and forms of do. The forms of be are is, am, are, was, were. We have already learned when we learned the tense that these are the words we use there in present and past. Is, am, are used in present tense. Was and were are used in past tense. You know, he is writing, I am writing, they are writing, he was writing, they were writing. Then how, has, had. These are the 3 forms of how. The word have itself comes there in the list. How, has, had. You know the use of how, has, and had. Have and has are used in present tense. Had is used in past tense. Then the third one is forms of do. Do, does, did. In the forms of do, you see the word do there at first. Then if it's singular, it's does. Then in past form, it's did. Then all the auxiliary verbs given at last, in the last set, are known as modal auxiliaries. The reason for calling it modal auxiliaries is it tells the mood of the speaker. You know the difference between I will go and I shall go. Okay, yes. So all these words denote the mood of the speaker. That is why these auxiliary verbs are known as modal auxiliaries. Okay, there is difference between I can come and I must come. There is difference between I should go and I may go. Okay, when you hear the word I should go, you know that it's compulsory. But when I say I must go, it's a bit more compulsory than I should go. Then I may go. So that's not compulsory. That's not obligation. So like that, the mood is different when we use each of these auxiliary verbs. That is why it's known as modal auxiliaries. So there are 24 auxiliary verbs. All these auxiliary verbs must be used in order to speak English fluently. Next. So let's come back to yes or no questions. Then the first one is, they have invited my friends to the party. Can you identify auxiliary verbs and main verbs? Yeah, the auxiliary verb is how. The main verb is invited, isn't it? So like that, Just have a look at these questions. I shall just read it for you. Meanwhile, try to try to mark the auxiliary verb as well as the main verb. We can travel in 2 days. We can travel in 2 days. Third sentence, my sister has completed her assignment. Fourth, she is cooking. Fifth, they are looking at the board. Sixth, I am thinking about it. Seventh, they were sleeping. Eighth, she will help me. So now you know which are the auxiliary verbs and main verbs in all these 8 sentences. Now let's see whether your guess is right or wrong. First one, they have invited my friends to the party. You can see the verbs given in green color are auxiliary verbs. In red, you can see the main verb. Green denotes auxiliary and red denotes main verb. So that was already mentioned there. The first question's answer is said already. Then second, can is auxiliary verb, travel is main verb. Next, has is auxiliary verb, completed is main verb. Next, is auxiliary verb, cooking is main verb. Are is auxiliary verb, looking is main verb. Am, auxiliary verb, thinking main verb. Were, auxiliary verb, sleeping main verb. Will, auxiliary verb, help main verb. Then verb. Once again, let's have a look at the splitting of verbs. How to split verbs. Do and do. Does and do. Did and do. Next, another word. Write, do, write. So the same pattern is repeated for all verbs. Just like do, write means do and write. Writes means does and write. And wrote means did and write. So this is the same pattern that we follow for all verbs. Next, go, do go. Goes, does go. Went, did go. Yeah. Split the verb for question and negative sentences. And we need to split the verbs for questions and negative sentences. Next, the word is jump. You know, it's do and jump. Jumps, J-U-M-P-S, does jump. Jumped, J-U-M-P-E-D, jumped, did jump. See, the first words are repeated everywhere. Do, does, did. Okay. Then, next word is see. That is do and see. Sees, does and see. Saw, second form. That is did and see. Yes. Now, I think you are ready to frame questions. How to ask yes or no questions. So with that basic understanding, let's form questions. Here you can see 4 questions. The first sentence, 4 sentences, 4 not questions, 4 statements. We need to form questions with these sentences. He writes answer. How to ask yes or no question. So I shall show you an example. That is, does he write answer? We have learned that the yes or no questions begin with auxiliary verbs. So is there any auxiliary verb in the statement? There is no auxiliary verb. There are only 3 parts in the sentence, that is subject, verb, and object. Since there is no auxiliary verb, we have to find out an auxiliary verb. How to do that? Split the verb into two parts. When we split the verb writes, we get does and write. At first, we write the auxiliary verb, then subject, then main verb, then object. Easy. That will be the pattern for all the following questions, for the statements. The right answer. Right means do and write. So what do we write as a question? The question is, do the right answer? Remember, the answer to the question is either yes or no. So this is how to ask yes or no questions. And there is subject, verb, and object. There is no auxiliary verb. So what to do? Split the main verb into two parts. We have learned how to split the main verb. Right. When we split that verb right, we get two words, do and write. We bring the subject in between auxiliary verb and main verb. We write the word they in between that, and at last, the object. Do the right answer. Then we write answer. Do we write answer? You write answer. Do you write answer? Easy. Yes. Now let's move on to the past tense. He wrote answer. What will be the answer to that? What will be the question to that answer? This is a statement. He wrote answer. And you know, wrote means did and write. So did he write answer is the question. They wrote answer. Did they write answer? We wrote answer. Did we write answer? You wrote answer. Did you write answer? Yes. You may think that the third question doesn't make any sense, but sometimes we ask ourselves, did we write answer? When we ask ourselves, sometimes we ask, just like myself, I may ask, did I do that well? Did I write the answer? Did I speak well? Did I do it? Yes. Just like introspection. Yes. Then he is writing answer. There is nothing to do, just to arrange the words, because there is auxiliary verb. If there is auxiliary verb in the question, we just need to arrange the words properly. So how to begin yes or no question? We must begin it with auxiliary verb. Find out the auxiliary verb in the sentence, and that is. So begin the question with is. Then subject, he. Main verb, writing. Object, answer. So the question is he writing answer? They are writing answer. Yes. Are they writing answer? We are writing answer. Are we writing answer? You are writing answer. Are you writing answer? Yes. The first two sets of sentences and the questions are to learn, because there we don't see auxiliary verb. If there is no auxiliary verb, split the verb into two parts. Auxiliary verb and main verb. We get auxiliary verb and main verb. Writes means does write. Write means do write. Wrote means did write. But at last, the last set of questions and sentences, there is auxiliary verb. So we don't have to do anything except rearranging these words. Yes, there is no need to mention that if it's a question, when we write, we need to use the question mark at last. Then, as you know, all sentences must begin with capital letter when we write. Next, splitting verbs. Have a look at it once again. If you haven't got it yet, remember, do is do and do, does is does and do, did is did and do, have is do and have, has is does and have, had is did and have. Yes, try to form yes or no questions with these sentences. He has a bag. We learned has means does have. So how to ask question? Does he have a bag? Has means does have. So does he have a bag? Have means do have, isn't it? Have. If we split the word have, we get do and have. So do they have a bag? Is the question. She has a bag. Does she have a bag? I have a bag. Do I have a bag? You may think, is it possible to ask ourselves, myself, do I have a bag? But when we decide to buy a new bag, sometimes we ask ourselves, do I need a bag? Do I have a bag? Like that. Then we had a bag. Do we have a bag? Did we have a bag? We had. See, had is past tense. Had means did have. So did we have a bag is the question. We had a bag. Sorry, he had a bag. Did he have a bag? Did he have a bag? Remember, had means did and have. Next, he doesn't write answer. This is just opposite to the sentence we have seen just a few moments before. That's he doesn't write answer. It's negative of he writes answer, isn't it? Yes. Next, doesn't he write answer? Same pattern is what we follow here. Auxiliary verb is doesn't, subject is he, write is the main verb, and answer is the object. They don't write answer. Don't they write answer? We don't write answer. Don't we write answer? You don't write answer. Don't you write answer? Then again, in past tense, he didn't write answer. Didn't he write answer? Sometimes we ask people whether they have not done it like that. Then they didn't write answer. Didn't they write answer? We didn't write answer. Didn't we write answer? You didn't write answer. Didn't you write answer? Yes. So there is nothing new to learn in this pattern because it's just opposite of what we have learned before. That is, he writes answer. Opposite is he doesn't write answer. Yes. Next, tense is something that we have already learned. You know how to write sentences in all 12 patterns, in all 12 tense forms. Simple present, if we take the same sentence, we can write he writes answer, he is writing answer, he has written answer, he has been writing answer. In past tense, he wrote answer, continuous, he was writing answer, past perfect, he had written answer, past perfect continuous, he had been writing answer. Simple future, he will write answer, future continuous, he will be writing answer, future perfect, he will have written answer, and future perfect continuous tense, he will have been writing answer. We need the help of tense to form questions. If the statement is in simple present tense, the question also should be in the simple present tense. If the statement is in simple past tense, the question also should be in simple past tense. So the question and the answer must be of the same tense. So I'm not going to take it once again, but I just want to bring the connection between the tenses and the questions, especially tenses and yes or no type questions. He writes answer. How to ask question? Does he write answer? Yes. Then he is writing answer. Is he writing answer? He has written answer. That is auxiliary verb, has he written answer? He has been writing answer. That is, has he been writing answer? He wrote answer. Did he write answer? He was writing answer. Was he writing answer? He had written answer. Had he written answer? He had been writing answer. Had he been writing answer? Remember, the present perfect continuous tense and past perfect continuous tense. It may be a bit confusing, especially future perfect continuous tense. That is the last tense in present, past, and future. Remember the pattern: auxiliary verb, subject, being, ing form, then object. Then simple future: will he write answer? Will he be writing answer? Will he have written answer? Will he have been writing answer? So the tense of the statement and question must be the same. If we get question in present continuous tense, the answer also must be in present continuous tense. For example, is he writing answer? We cannot say he was writing answer. The answer is he is writing answer. Does he write answer? Yes, he does. Yes, he writes answer. Yes, like that. So in short, we sometimes use yes, he does. That's another way of communication. We learned that later. I mean, if we ask the question like, does he write answer? In short, we can answer, yes, he does, like that. Did he write answer? Yes, he did. That's a short way of communication. Okay. Then negative is, no, he doesn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't, like that. Okay, in the same pattern, if I give you another set of questions, sentences with the subject she, verb speak, object, there's no object, it's an adverb. Okay, the word is well. She speaks well. How to ask yes or no question? Remember, it begins with auxiliary verb. There is no auxiliary verb in the sentence there, she speaks well. We need to split the verb speaks into two. We get does and speak. So does she speak well? Does she speak well? She is speaking well. Is she speaking well? That is auxiliary verb is. Okay, try to say answer before I tell. Then third, she has spoken well. That is auxiliary verb, that is has. Has she spoken well? She has been speaking well. Has she been speaking well? Yes. She spoke well. Did she speak well? Spoke means did speak. She was speaking well. That is, was she speaking well? She had spoken well. Had she spoken well? Then she had been speaking well. Had she been speaking well? She will speak well. Will she speak well? Remember the auxiliary verb is will, subject she, verb speak. Then she will be speaking well. Will she be speaking well? She will have spoken well. Will she have spoken well? And at last, she will have been speaking well. Will she have been speaking well? Yes, fine. So the practice is the one and only way to make ourselves perfect. Practice again and again. There is only one word, that is practice. Practice, again practice. Whenever you see something, just try to think in English, ask questions yourself. If you hear a sentence like he studied, try to make it in all 12 forms, like he studies, he is studying, he has studied, he has been studying, he studied, he was studying, he had studied, he had been studying, he will study, he will be studying, he will have studied, he will have been studying. In the same pattern, try to ask questions also in all the 12 forms, like does he study, is he studying, has he studied, has he been studying, did he study, was he studying, had he studied, had he been studying, will he study, will he be studying, will he have studied, will he have been studying, like that. Okay, so practice will make ourselves perfect. So practice again and again. Thinking in English is the best way to speak fluently. Instead of thinking in our mother tongue, try to think everything in English. At first, maybe for the first time, it may be difficult. Try to think only in English for the 5 minutes, then increase the time to 10. Sometimes you can make it half an hour or 1 hour. As we increase the time, we will be fluent in English speaking. The third type of questions is tag questions. Tag, just like the word tag denotes, it's something attached to something. Tag means something joined or attached. Tag question is used to ask for agreement or to ask for things or to ask for favors and information or information. It asks for the response from the listener. If we are asked a tag question, we need a response. You might have heard the word isn't it? That's an example for a tag question. But we use isn't it everywhere. So there is tag for each type of sentence. This is very simple. Just to write the opposite of the verb and the pronoun. That's all. Look at the first example. They are going to museum. Remember, we are learning the third type of questions. First of all, we have learned questions with question words. Second, we have learned yes or no questions. And third is tag questions. Tag questions, when we write tag or when we speak tag, it must be correct. It must be matching to the sentence. In the sentence, they are going to museum. The verb is are going. So there is an auxiliary verb, are. Opposite of are is aren't, are not. And its contraction short form is aren't. Once again, are is the auxiliary verb. Opposite of are is are not. Short form of are not is aren't. Then the subject is they. We write the pronoun. I think you know the pronoun we learned in the last class. Pronoun. They. They is a pronoun here. We write the same pronoun here. Aren't they? Negative of the auxiliary verb plus pronoun, then question mark. That is question tag. Second, she was not going to the shop. Was she? The auxiliary verb is was not. Was not is negative, so we have to write positive here. Unlike the first sentence, the second sentence is negative. If the auxiliary verb is negative, we have to write it's positive. In the first sentence, are is positive, so we write negative. If the statement is negative, we have to write positive tag. Was not, its opposite is was. Pronoun is she. We write the word she there. Then third sentence is you know the answer, don't you? No, there is no auxiliary verb. So what to do? Split the verb. The verb is no. If we split the verb no, we get two words, do and no. Opposite of do is don't. Pronoun you. Next one is let us go to the beach. Shall we? This is exceptional. For all sentences with let us, the one and only tag is shall we. If we say let us go outside, shall we? Let us read, shall we? Let us think, shall we? Let us help them, shall we? Remember, this is exceptional. For all sentences which begin with let us, the tag is shall we. Next is he has known her since childhood, hasn't he? Very simple. Has is auxiliary verb, opposite is has not, short form is hasn't. Subject he, and its pronoun is he, same. They said it is wrong, didn't they? There is no auxiliary verb. The verb is said. If we split the verb said, we get two words, did and say. Did and say. Opposite of did is didn't. Didn't say. So this process must happen within a second. Then only we can speak fluently. So practice will make us speak fluently like this. This is an important part of communication. Sometimes we ask about rain. It's raining, isn't it? We speak the same in our mother tongue. So this is how we say tag questions in English. Next, you can help your friend. First thing you have to do is to look for auxiliary verb. If there is auxiliary verb, its opposite is must be found. Can, can't you? If there is no auxiliary verb, split the verb into two. Take the auxiliary and say it's negative, then pronoun. Then Manu lives in Kochi. Lives. There is no auxiliary verb. Lives. What is lives? Does live. Lives, does live. Live, do live. Lived, did live. Like that. Okay. So that must come immediately. Lives, does live. Opposite of does is doesn't. Subject Manu. Remember, here we cannot write doesn't Manu because we have to write the pronoun. The pronoun for Manu is he. Pronoun for Sheila is she. If the sentence was like Sheila lives in Kochi, the tag changes to doesn't she. They live in Kochi, the tag is don't they. Okay, don't they. Like that. Next, our teacher never comes late to class. It's a negative sentence. So if the sentence is negative, tag should be positive. So since it is negative, the tag should be positive. Comes, never comes. That means does not come late. Okay, so comes. Its auxiliary verb is does come. So we get the word does. Since it is negative, we just write the positive, does. Teacher, it can be he or she. Okay, next. So here you can see 5 sentences with its matching tags. So just try to match it. It is raining heavily. What is the right appropriate tag for this sentence? It's raining heavily. Auxiliary verb is, its opposite is isn't. Do you see any sentence, any tag there beginning with isn't? Yes, that is isn't it. Next, we should thank him. Should is auxiliary verb. Opposite of should is shouldn't. And pronoun is we, shouldn't we. Everyone likes ice cream. The verb is likes. There is no auxiliary verb. So we split the verb likes into two. We get does and like. We take the auxiliary verb does. And opposite of does is doesn't. But that is not applicable to everyone. Everyone means no more than one. So it takes the pronoun they. Okay, they. So according to the pronoun, it gets changed to don't they. Listen, the third one is different. Usually we just write the opposite of the auxiliary verb. We get does. But does is not matching to they. The reason for writing they as pronoun here is everyone means more than one person. Its pronoun is they. If there is only one person, we can write he or she. But more than one means they. So the tag pronoun is they. The matching is not doesn't they, it's don't they. Next, please shut the door. If the sentence is a request, it has to take a tag like will you, will you. Okay, so you cannot see the word will not here. For requests, we have to use will you. Akash goes to the library every day. Goes is the verb. When we split, we get does go. Opposite of does is doesn't. And the tag for the pronoun for Akash is he. So doesn't he. See, you can see some questions here. Try to find out the tag for these questions. You were absent yesterday. Question tag is where. Opposite of where is weren't. And the answer is weren't you. Remember, after the sentence, if we write, we have to use a comma, then the tag must begin with a small letter, not capital letter. Then at last, there should be a question mark. We are late, aren't we? Our opposite aren't. Pronoun we. It is true. isn't it? It is raining now. Say, isn't it? You are sure. Opposite of are is aren't. Pronoun you, aren't you. You know the answer. There is no auxiliary verb. The verb is know, and it has to be split into two. We get do and know. Opposite of do is don't you. He studies well. Studies. There is no auxiliary verb. Studies. We split, we get does study. Opposite of does is doesn't. Pronoun he, doesn't he. She is smart. Isn't. Since the word is there, we have to write its opposite. That is isn't she. We didn't know that. There is auxiliary verb and it is negative. So what do we have to do? Write positive. Didn't is negative. Positive is did. So the answer is did we. At last, he is present today. Is opposite isn't. Pronoun he, isn't he. Yes. So today we have learned how to frame questions. First type of question is questions with question words. Second, yes or no questions. And third, tag questions. We have to use questions in order to have effective communication. Questions are such an important part of communication. So there's a quote, as you can see, judge a man by his questions rather than his answers. So the questions a person asks are important. So a person's intelligence or communication skill can be counted by listening to his questions. Thank you. Sorry, you are muted.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
now
sir.
you're audible. Yes, now you're audible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for explaining how to frame questions. It's really a wonderful class. I hope this class clear all our doubts. How to frame questions is really great help. So dear friends, now I'll unmute you all. So if you have any questions, you can ask our sir. He will answer you. Now, you can unmute yourself. If you have any questions, please ask our sir.